All right, folks, welcome. Good job being right on time. My name is Andrew Jones. I'm the executive director, co-founder of Climate Interactive. If you came for our workshop with En-ROADS, you're in the right place. I'm here with Catherine Markova and Ava De Leon, and we're going to give you the top 10 reasons to persist and hang in there on climate action despite the headlines that we're all reading every day. Why hang in there? In As you get settled, please open up another browser window. Look to the chat and see a link there to this Poll Everywhere site. We're going to ask you to go to that site or look here on the screen. You can see the link up at the top or this QR code and let us know where you are. Put a little pin in this map or as well, go to chat. Write your name, write where you are, and tell us what you're doing on climate. Always interested to see who's joining us. We have many people in the east coast of the US and in South America, Brazil, out on the west coast of the US, looks like Seattle area, and France and Europe. So someone up in the UK, West Africa, South America. We did this at 7 a.m. and we had a lot of people shifted over to the other time zone, 7 a.m. Eastern, so we had many more in Asia. Someone in Turkey. Is that Iceland? I don't, maybe not. All right. And we're seeing where people are arriving from. Happy to see you here. Write your name and your location and what you're up to on climate into the chat. And that would be another way if you're more of a writer than a map user. Robert from Massachusetts and Christine from Germany and Kathleen from California. Alfonso, Peru and Chile. Someone from the UK. Grafton, Mass. San Francisco, David Schwartz. Hi, David. I know you. Great to see you here. Ankush Allen, London, UK. Shri from Seattle, New Jersey, Ashwani. Great to see people arriving. If you're just arriving, I am Andrew P. Jones. I'm the Executive Director of Climate Interactive, and I'm here with Catherine Markova and Ava De Leon. We're going to give you the top 10 reasons to persist. Hang in there. Keep on doing the work every day, all you can on climate, despite the headlines that we read that often suggest that we shouldn't, but we should. And we're going to tell you why we should using our simulator En-ROADS. Interested to see, maybe there's some people who are brand new to En-ROADS. We'll cue it up in just a second. Great to see everyone arriving. Let's get this party going. Here we go. If you haven't logged in and used the poll, please do. It's going to be really important, particularly later in the session. Okay. Top reasons to keep going on climate. We are Climate Interactive. We are a not-for-profit climate tech company. We're spread around the world. We're 14 people, and we work closely with MIT's Climate Pathways Project and the Policy Center at MIT. We built the model En-ROADS with them. Just not going to bury the lead. We built this model. This is the model. It is freely available in 21 languages. Go use it in your own. Ava, can you share a link to the model itself? And what's so powerful about it? Well, one thing is that it runs really, really fast. So you can go to top decision makers, your colleagues, your business, your community, your family, your state, your country, and have them learn about what actions will deliver what results in the world. And I'm going to show you a bit how to use the simulator as I talk about this really important topic. We're funded by many of these groups: Patrick McGovern Foundation, Why Wait Fund, MIT itself. You can see all of the names. This is where we get the money. And we are inspired particularly by this terrible number. The OECD said less than 18% of policymakers know how actions to address climate change play out to actually deliver benefits. If we want to see a world with greenhouse gas emissions falling rapidly, we need many more than 18% of policymakers to understand what we can do, what results will get delivered. That's why we're here. Building these simulators, embedding them in a workshop, in a game, in exercises, and giving it away. So you, and right now, over 900 people around the world, well trained to go drive policy action around the world. We have three big initiatives in middle income economy countries addressing equitable energy transition and something we call CROP, climate risk and opportunity pathways. So that is got much more to do with climate risk analysis and scenarios. That's why we're here. But today, the theme again is going to be the top 10 reasons why we should hang in there and persist despite the headlines. Now, the only way to get there is to acknowledge the yes, but what about it's so bad voice that is in all of our heads. So we're going to have to just clear all of that out with this question. What are the reasons not to persist? Okay? Just this is our time. Say it, write it, go to your poll. Look at the top there. Ava, would you put the link again in the chat? Go to the poll and write what is a reason. And if it's one word, just write it. If it's two words, you got to hyphenate it. If it's two words, you've got to hyphenate it. Two words, hyphenate it. So we're waiting on our first answer to this. Too late. Okay, if you liked too late, write it again. Denial. If you liked burnout, write it again. So look at the answers and see any of them, if any of them speak to you, because they'll get bigger. So if you like apathy or burnout or confusion or overwhelming disinformation or too late, write it again and it will get bigger. Too late, apathy, Trump, burnout, overwhelmed, denial, interests, pessimism, apathy. So why? And here we are. We're just so that there isn't this what about conversation that happens later. Yes, but we're going to address the yes, but right now by getting it out. Trump, apathy, too late, burnout, hopeless, all is moot, complacency, solar wins anyways, overwhelming disinformation. Get it out, just say it. Apathy, burnout, too late, Trump. Whose fault? Billionaires, Gates, powerless. Get it out. All right, this is good. Get it out of the system. Wow. Apathy, burnout, Trump, too late. Apathy, burnout, Trump, too late. Okay, let's move on to, wow, you're still writing. This is good. Just get it out. First of the 10 reasons. Here it comes. The first, number 10, because we cannot adapt to a world without mitigation success. That is, without preventing the problem. Some argue that actually, well, maybe we just let it go, keep emitting coal, oil, and gas, carbon dioxide emissions, and deforestation and methane, just let it go because we would be able to deal with whatever comes our way. And this is a reason to persist because this is not true. We are not able to do this. And I want to show you a little bit about why. We're going to use the simulator, and I want you to think for a second of which of the many impacts of climate change do you think are the most convincing to say that no, we can't adapt. Now, what you're going to do in the simulator is and you'll notice I'm going to like lead you through this in a way that you could replicate some of these discussions with anybody. That's why we're here. This is not the Drew Show. I give you this so that you can carry this work forward. Go click on that title and then click on impacts. And then you can explore which of these impacts in frequency of extreme heat, where the extreme heat is, the hurricanes and typhoons, like what's hitting Jamaica and Cuba, air pollution, malaria and dengue, economic losses, crop yield, biodiversity, oceans, wildfires, drought, whatever your thing is, we're going to be able to go and explore. So the question to you is, which of all of those reasons is the one that is the most compelling to you? Because no, we can't adapt to it. We must do all we can to prevent these futures because we can't ask the future and even the near future people to deal with what's coming their way in this baseline business as usual future. Biodiversity loss, ecosystem changes, extreme heat. I think I'm giving you several votes here, by the way. Oh, I need to make it a little smaller too. Ocean acidification, extreme heat, vote. So go to your other browser. You can use your phone for this one if you want. Look at the top there, use the QR code, look into the browser, excuse me, into the chat. Ava, can you post that link again for Poll Everywhere so people get a chance to go in there? Vote, vote, vote. Extreme heat, biodiversity, extreme heat and biodiversity. Many votes for many other things, but boy, that's really dominating. I see it. Extreme heat and biodiversity. Let's go look at them. So, you don't need to make a speech when you engage other people about all the challenges. Just ask them and say, what are you curious about? What are they curious about? In this case, you were curious about extreme heat, biodiversity. Let's go look. How you'd look at extreme heat is under impacts. I think go straight to it. Make it big like this. You notice what I just did there? Click on the corner, the three dots, view larger. Deaths from extreme heat. The deaths that we've seen so far, many, but that's where it's headed. Notice that exponential, it's rising at an increasing rate over time. Where? Well, look again to see deaths from extreme heat by region. More in Southeast Asia and in Southern Europe. This is partly due to like how ready these regions are for the extreme heat that's coming. It's not just how hot are these places getting, but how prepared are they? And the study, by the way, everything here is documented. So you want to see what does this mean? How did they come up with it? Click on here and then look and see further down what are the studies that it's based on. We're kind of here to trick you into going and reading academic papers. We love them. Here is the paper that we used to make the link between global temperature and heat-related mortality. There's the study, but this is the one to look at, where it is in the world. And then more specifically, if you're concerned about heat and you're engaging other people, look and see, for example, heat and humidity. This is called wet bulb temperature. And you can go type in anywhere in the world that you want to see. So someone type into chat, what's the place in the world? Uh, what's a place in the world that you'd like to see? India. What's a place, or Santander, Spain? And I saw there's some concerns with the link, but it seems to be working again. Uh, all right, it seems to be working again. Okay, Santander, Spain. I have never looked at Santander, Spain. So I'm going to type that in. And Ava, you'll tell me if there is a problem with sharing things, I assume. So we're going to go and look into Spain. And I think this is an area which is not about extreme heat and humidity. This is an area that's about extreme heat, not the humidity mix. Santander, Spain. I'll make it big, and then you can see this area. Here's where it's headed. And one way just to see the area, there's all of Spain. It's on the northern shore. Here's where it is today, or it was 25 years ago, where there was 1 to 7 days above 32C or 90F. And you could use this to explore how is it changing over time, over the century. It's changing to the point where it's going to be not 1 to 7, but 8 to 30. It goes from green to blue. And for many parts of the world, the point of this is these are things that we cannot adapt to. The biodiversity point that was being made is even stronger. Species losing more than 50% of our range. Invertebrates, 50% of them losing more than half of their range under this scenario. When I say this is not going to be okay for functional ecosystems around the world, this is the kind of statistic that we can point to say, reason number 10 is we must mitigate, we must prevent climate change because this is not adaptable to. Mammals, 24% of them losing over half of their range. There's a wonderful quote from Joanna Macy, whom I got to meet, an amazing environmental leader. She said, "We are the earth protecting ourselves." In this way, this reason is when we notice this kind of future, we rise up and we say, we are protecting ourselves as life on earth, earth itself. So that's this reason. And the motivation is just look at these impacts and say, we must do better. Reason number 9, it's been working. It has been working. That is, the global climate movement has radically reduced our anticipated future warming. I've been in this game for 35 years. Climate Interactive, we started building our models 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, we started building our first model, C-roads, which evolved into En-roads. And in that first model, we built a baseline. We're not a forecasting company. We develop a reasonable starting point for model experimentation. That is the point of our baseline. IEA, other groups, they do forecasts. We're not here for forecasts, but we do have these baselines. And we thought the most reasonable baseline in 2008 to 2011, when we did the first study of pledges to the United Nations, it's the first time it was ever shared anywhere. Our baseline was 4.9 degrees C. You remember a minute ago, 3.3. We were way, 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 way above where we are today. And let me show you that evolution. Back then, around the time of the Copenhagen Accord from the UN, 2008 to 2011, 4.9 degrees C. When we saw the progress in clean energy, in global activism, in countries getting engaged and starting to work together for the Paris Agreement, and when we saw the pledges to the Paris Agreement, our baseline was 4.5 degrees. 4.5. So we thought we could shave off zero point 0.4 degrees C. In 2019, we start seeing more investment in clean energy, more climate activism, methane and deforestation being included, other short-lived forcers starting to be noticed, valued, addressed. in different ways. Policy starting to kick in, investment, technology. 2019, 4.1. Then a big leap, mostly due to the breakthroughs in clean energy, to 3.6 by 2021. And now, just starting 2 years ago, also including the effect of climate change, this is important. We're including the fact that economic growth is slowing because of the effects of climate change. We are today at 3.3. What's my point? It's working. It's working. It's working. Over this last 20 years or so, all that we have been doing has been working. I Last Thursday, I with my friends went backpacking and a 4 hour day hike in the Smoky Mountains turned into a 17-hour, very cold crawl through rhododendron thickets and then walk through a very cold river for 17 hours because of reasons. Our mantra was, we're moving forward. We just yelled at each other, five of us in a line at 3 in the morning. We're moving forward, step by step. We're moving forward. My friends, in the climate movement, we actually are moving forward. Steadily, we are moving forward. To restate it, the global climate movement has radically reduced forecasted warming. We have been moving forward. We may still do more. Why are we moving forward? One of the most powerful reasons and the most compelling, if you need optimism, the clean energy revolution growth goes way beyond expectations. I worked for Amory and Hunter Levins in 1990, and we dreamed of energy efficiency and solar and batteries working great in what we called hypercars back then to be much more efficient vehicles. This is way beyond what we thought could have been possible, even for a dreamer like Amory Lovins. So, what has been happening? What's been happening? Go to En-ROADS. On graphs, go all the way down to model comparison history. Click on marginal cost of solar electric history. And then on the right, the same area, model comparison, but here the growth in wind and solar. And this is showing, I'll make it really big. This is one of the ways we build confidence in the model. We start the model in 1990, make sure we track actual data for 24 years, 34 years, excuse me. The purple is the actual data for the cost per kilowatt hour of solar electricity. And the yellow line is our simulation of it. Falling, falling, falling. It's getting less and less expensive. Because of that, over on the right, the demand for solar is growing. See that yellow line growing really fast. There is a beautiful feedback loop, a reinforcing positive feedback loop that goes, solar gets inexpensive, so we build more of it. We build more of it. We get production efficiencies. We get the willingness of customers to use the new technology, economies of scale. It gets less expensive. It gets less expensive. We buy more. It gets less expensive. This reinforcing feedback loop has been driving costs down, investment up in surprising and powerful, powerful ways. Now, when we see this growth, see this through 2010 and that exponential growth, wow, that's a lot, right? Okay. We certainly have so much in the world and we have some other data, I think. So much has happened already. It's really exciting to see how much. And the result of it has been this fantastic news that global renewables have surpassed coal for the first time. It's like a foot race. Coal way ahead, renewables catching up, catching up. Well, this is the year when we, as renewables, passed coal. How can you see that in En-ROADS? Here in En-ROADS, here's where that shows up. Go to this graph. You're going to click on final energy consumption totals. And that headline was not about energy, it was about electricity. Where do we use our electricity in the world? Here it is from 2000 to 2100. See that brown area? That's all the coal. Still growing, But here it is, 2025 at 30.94. Remember that number, 30.9, 30.9, 30.9. Look at the wedge of green, of renewables expanding, right? And it's expanding, expanding. How is it doing? By 2025, we said 30.9. It just passed it, 31.06. Here in En-ROADS, you can see how it's passing it. This is fantastic news, but I want you getting really excited about the big green field that is growing and expanding to the right. Look what is coming. Why? Well, it's been the result of activism and policy, but it's largely being driven by the market. There are many forces afoot here in the United States to cancel large commercial photovoltaic solar projects. However, the market is driving and will shift. I heard a great interview. Can you share this interview, Ava, with Jigger Shaw? You'll see it, Jigger Shaw on Ayanna, Elizabeth Johnson's podcast, talking about how because it's so cheap, we're shifting from commercial applications to more rooftop and others. It's just a better technology now and inexpensive. So we still expect that big swath of green off to the right. So, what are we talking about? Wind, solar, and the clean tech revolution way surpassing everything that we had expected. Why? Production in China. We always imagined this would be invented in the United States, perhaps growing here. This is not a story at all about the United States. This is a story about China. Here from Our World in Data. Ava, can you share this link to Our World in Data? Global installed energy, solar energy capacity for the last 24 years. There's that same growth. I showed you the yellow line in En-ROADS. Same line. Look how much of it is China. That half of it. And we're excited about, say, I sit in US, but the next lines we see here are India, Brazil, Mexico, Spain, Chile. What does it look like in China? It looks like this. The Talatan Solar Park on the Tibetan Plateau. The black areas are photovoltaic panels. These are part of concentrated solar thermal, which are these mirrors that send light to this tower that heats liquid that then produces electricity. This is what it looks like. Analysis by Ember. Go check this out. There's another link to share. Ava, if you would, Ember made this great deck. It's so hopeful and positive. Go flip through it. One of them was this, that as we see the growth, particularly in wind and solar in China, fossil fuel demand is peaking. This is the critical part, right? The world doesn't need wind and solar. The world needs wind and solar to crowd out coal and gas for the climate. You get that? It doesn't help on its own. It only helps if it's able to plateau the fossil fuels, as you see here, and then reduce them over time. There's some evidence that that may be happening in energy consumption from fossil fuels and in overall electricity generation in China. The production in China is diffusing and spreading around the world. This shows growth first in mature markets and in China, but then in these emerging markets, Indonesia, India, South Africa, Brazil, Mexico, Argentina. In particular, I want to point out the amazing story of Pakistan, where because of inexpensive exports of Chinese wind, particularly solar actually, they've put up the equivalent of half the national grid in solar panels in the last year. This is what it looks like in the bottom right. They are the something like 26th biggest economy, but they're the fifth biggest installer of solar in the world. Now, the other area where this is the other area this is happening is electrification. Because lithium ion batteries, which are so central to an electric vehicle, have come down so much in cost. This is over the last 11 years. We've seen it drop radically, and therefore these car stocks growing really swiftly. That is the installation of electric vehicles. China and in the world, EU, and here in the US. What does that look like in En-ROADS? Well, let's go back and reset and bring this back up uh, to see how you can see some of these results. Here under transport electrification, click in this bottom right corner and you're going to be able to see the growth in percent transport sales by carrier. One way is to look at it here. I think I'm going to show you the other way though. When there's a graph that's probably buried like that, click on here and then use the search. Transport is the keyword here. Existing transport by carrier. That growth you saw of EVs, that is this growth right here. I want you to notice though, as exciting as this is, look at that last graph I was showing you of electric car stocks. See that? Look how high it is. Huge growth to this amazing point of almost 60 million. Hold that moment. That is 2024. Look what is anticipated, however. Remember 2024. Look to 2024 in this graph. 2024 is right there. Do you see that little lip up relative to what's coming? Do you see how tiny that is? Here through 2025, 26, 27, where it hits 13, 14, 28, 30%, 36, 40% of carriers being EVs in this scenario. And of course, with others you can go test. Well, what if we encourage infrastructure for charging and subsidize the vehicles? We could imagine it doing even more. And then if we're like France or like parts of California, we could actually have a sales limit on the internal combustion engines as well that could get us even higher. Look how much higher that would be. Going from 2024, this growth we thought was so much. Look how much it could grow, largely because it's a better technology. It's just a better technology. Go explore some of those futures in En-ROADS to show why we might see this kind of growth continuing in the future. Now, what that looks like is also not just uh, globally in all vehicles, but more specifically, two and three wheelers. This is again from Ember. There's the EVs, but trucks and vans, exponential growth, public charging, exponential growth as well. This is also showing up in electrification of buildings and industry, machine tools and pumps, cooling, heating, appliances, lighting, electronics. You can see that same shape of exponential growth. You've seen some of these results, but the main point here is the way that the clean energy revolution has significantly surpassed most of our dreams of what we thought might be coming. It's prompted by activism, prompted by policy, but now being driven by the pure economics of it. Number seven, finally, outside of emissions reduction plans, the financial regulators, lawyers, insurance executives are being engaged with some other efforts that will make it more expensive to ignore climate action and increasingly internalize the costs of inaction, which is another way to drive action in the world that I think should give us a sense of hope and possibility. Catherine Markova on her team has been talking a lot about this effort here to address the fact that there are new climate reporting regulations diffusing all around the world. Financial concerns, both about physical risk to companies, but also transition risk. That is, if the world takes action, are these companies ready? They're driving corporate risk disclosure globally. The green areas, uh, I think it's already in force, proposed in the yellow areas around the world. So this is the financial regulators. But the lawyers won a victory when it came to the state of New York actually penalizing companies for greenhouse gas emissions, particularly the fossil fuel industry. New York State has succeeded in this. There are many other lawsuits that are coming up. And as places become uninsurable, those costs then drive climate action upstream if folks are ignoring those costs. Number six, we know what to do. We have the technologies and the policies to succeed into the future. And I want to just be clear, you know what they are, but I want to hear it. What do you see as what is needed? I'm going to go to the next poll. Open up your poll again. What are the actions that are needed? What are those actions that are needed? Not just dreamed about in the future, but what do we need to do? What do we know to do? What are the policies, investments, actions, regulations that would be necessary to get us to the goals that we have? Take a minute, fill this out, enjoy creating your vision of the world. I think you can vote more than one time. Okay, what am I seeing? Subsidies, remove subsidies, set a carbon price, energy efficiency, buildings and industry, methane, create your vision. This is what you imagine you can see the world doing. Encourage renewable energy. Okay, we are going to implement many of these policies. And note, when I say we have this workshop, we have this simulator, the core of it is this. Ask people what they want to test. Go show in the simulator how much better it would be if we did these things, which help a lot, which help a little. Good job with the answers. Okay, as I answer this, there's many that you voted for. I'm not going to go to your top votes first. I want to address uh, another reason to persist, which is how much energy affordability and the clean energy revolution work together. Here at the top thumbnail, this is one of my favorite graphs, so it's up here. Price of energy. This is the average price of energy to consumers. And I want you to see over here greenhouse emissions. I'm actually going to have you see fossil fuel emissions and show two things in parallel. Here's all the emissions for burning coal, oil, and gas. And then here's affordability. You hear a lot, oh, we need to stop clean energy because it's so expensive. That is not true. Watch this as I implement some of the policies you voted for. When we build the cheapest source of energy on Earth in renewables, we'll show it over here. Look in the bottom right. There's renewable energy growing. If we encourage it more and we get more of it, notice two things. Price to consumers goes down and emissions goes down. Emissions go down because of less coal, less gas. Over here, we're getting more of the least expensive source. So of course the average price for consumers goes down. Other things as well. Energy efficiency in transportation. More efficient vehicles means those prices go down as well and emissions go down. Buildings and industry energy efficiency drove it down as well. Do you see this convergence? This is what Dr. Beth Sawin at the Multi-Solving Institute calls multi-solving, solving two problems at once. We don't have the time for trade-offs. right now. We need to find things that do both. Electrification has some of the same benefits as well. We see the two working together. And this I would call I think we're on number five now. I think we're on number five, that renewables, efficiency, and electrification also boost energy affordability. Sing it from the mountaintops, my friends, because it's true. It is true. And that got us a little closer to implementing some of your policies. Let me just remind myself, here's where we were. You didn't just say do clean energy. You said, hold on, this is the, uh, it was clean energy, but remove subsidies, set a carbon price, and other things. Let's go pull that up. All right. So what I've done is I've implemented some actions on overall the clean energy revolution. I'll do more with electrification, actually more with energy efficiency. Okay. I want us to see though, when we bring in some of the other non-energy based actions as well, let's go look, and I'm going to look at methane. For that, click on the title and you see this area of greenhouse gas emissions. That includes the methane. Click on it, and this one down here shows the three main areas of methane. Over on the right, I'm going to show you others like nitrous oxide. So when we work and implement best practices in agriculture, we get this big reduction in these yellow areas of nitrous oxide and methane. We cut waste and leakage. Watch in the top left, the blue and brown areas and landfills and leakage and testing pipelines, etc. We cut those emissions. We get down to 2.4. I'm going to go to deforestation, which is under land, forests, and food right here. If we cut deforestation more, we can get down to say 2.3. Clean energy, forests, agriculture, food, land. We've done so much there. Maybe a little bit in carbon removal. However, we're not getting below 2 degrees if we stop here. Why? Because we have only kind of transitioned away from fossil fuels. They've been growing. These are the CO2 emissions from fossil fuels, peaking, say, in 2030, falling generally over time. It takes a long time for clean energy to replace the infrastructure of the coal, oil, and gas industry, the largest industries on earth that have a 30 or so year lifetime to the capital. It fades out gently as the new stuff comes in. That doesn't cut emissions fast enough in order to get well below 2 degrees. So this sets up what I'm excited about as my next reason for to persist or to have hope is because oops, that's not what I wanted. Uh, more governments and people are facing the need to address oil and gas production and infrastructure more directly. Groups like the Fossil Fuel Treaty, the Beyond Oil and Gas Alliance, many of the other big organizations are recognizing this idea of these scissors. This was a way to look at it from Gerasimchuk said, it's like scissors cutting greenhouse gas emissions. The bottom part is encouraging clean energy. The top is discouraging fossil fuels or encouraging less. How is it happening? Folks are banning internal combustion engines in the EU, Japan, and South Korea. Natural gas hookups, New York and Washington State, not putting as many natural gas hookups into residential and commercial. Denying pipeline permits, France, Quebec, Portland, banning new gas stations in France and California. What does that look like in En-ROADS? You voted for it. I'm going to pull this back up. Here it comes. Greenhouse gas net emissions. What we've done, we haven't addressed them directly. When we cut subsidies, and note in 3 or 4 months, we're going to have subsidy removals explicitly added to En-ROADS. But watch what happens when we cut subsidies. Blue line goes down in the top left. Oil down a little bit. Gas down a little bit. You voted for carbon pricing. Watch as we increase a carbon price that leads us to very soon not just transition away from coal, oil, and gas, but instead decrease it much more steeply. That leads us to something more like 1.9 degrees. And we're starting to see a future of meeting some of those goals when we put all of these policies together. And we also get to see some of the radical benefits of it. I showed you at the start, didn't I? We started with deaths from extreme heat. We can bend this curve and avoid these worst case futures. We can address ecosystems. I showed you species losing more than half of their range. So many fewer when we get ourselves on track to the blue, which is that 1.9 degrees scenario, as opposed to the black. Not 50% loss of, or 50% of the species losing more than half of their range, only 17. And it gets better as we get a little closer to 1.5 as well. A better future. This sets up our next reason for hope and possibility. The fact that there are people around the world doing everything they can to make something like that happen. The global climate movement. Margaret Mead said it well. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead, the anthropologist, said that. I hope you see, and I hope you get to be part of groups of people who are doing all they can to address this challenge and feel that community of shared purpose. We at Climate Interactive, this is why we are here. We're here to give this tool away so that you can go and advocate and be part of a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens. What that looks like are people who have run these events in all of these places around the world. Now, 14,000 events, over 400,000 participants in 182 countries. It looks like this over the last couple months. Now, note, I'm going to talk about our effort. This is our community. Please join us. Many of you are in it already. You know your own. Please engage them. Ambassador Renato Santos de Souza here in Brazil. See, this is the version of the model in Portuguese. A workshop in Taiwan for the Ministry of the Environment. That version, that's the Chinese version up there, and they're looking at an area in Taiwan. Here in the United States, you can see the scenario up there. Here in Amsterdam for business professionals. Here, in Indonesia, workshop for the Coalition of Climate Finance Ministers in Indonesia. This is in Lagos, Nigeria. They made their own logo there and printed out various scenarios. This is different simulation scenarios in Lagos, Nigeria. What does that look like in the world? The small group of committed citizens. If you go to our website, I'm going to type it in no, I think I can find everybody. Contact an ambassador. These are the 941 people. If you are one, go right in the chat right now. Say your name and where you are, because we may not see you here in these pictures. 90 countries engaging all of these people. These are all the people who have gone through our free training program and are engaging others in addressing climate action. All right. Ava, would you post the invitation to take our free online course? All right. Okay. Number 3 was the small group of citizens. Ava found this study, which is reason number 2. Hope is healthy. Hope is healthy. This new study, please share it, Ava, by Graham and Muchik, Hope and the Life Course, results from a longitude of 25,000 adults in Australia. They studied people over 11 years. Individuals with high levels of hope had improved later well-being, education, economic and employment outcomes, perceived and objective health, there's that word, and are less likely to be lonely. Hope is healthy. It is a good investment in oneself. I thought that was really encouraging to see. Okay, now we're though building up to, drum roll please, the number one reason that we should persist and what I hope drives all of us. And I need to go back to En-ROADS to build this case. Here is the scenario that we just made. I'm going to share it actually. I'm going to go to the top corner here, copy scenario link into chat, and I'm going to let you go try this yourself. Go see this scenario. You can go click on it and see it. I'm going to go to temperature. It's one of the impacts. Here is temperature. View larger. Here's the scenario. It's not going to 3.3. It's going to 1.8. The path there. Here we are in 2025, just the edge of 1.5 where we want to limit warming. And it goes up and up. And even in this scenario where we get it right, we do all that we can. I need to be honest with you all. In that scenario, we don't experience a lower global temperature than we would have otherwise for another 15 years. We have bought and committed ourselves to the next 15 years of warming. This turns like an ocean liner. It doesn't turn like a sports car because of all the momentum in this huge biogeochemical system, the heat that is already trapped, the CO2 that's already stuck up there, that it takes a long time to dissipate. There's momentum in this system. So this leads us to face an uncomfortable fact that I thought was best named by one of my heroes in this movement, Christiana Figueres, in this. Can you share the link to this podcast? Christiana was the architect with others of the Paris Agreement, an early advocate actually for C-Roads. She helped us get into the UN process at all. And in this podcast, I couldn't get the exact quote, but I'm paraphrasing her here. And I want to read this slowly. This is important. When you just saw that scenario, it helps us understand why she said we are not solving climate change. We're not solving climate change. We're preventing the worst of the worst futures, getting from that 4.9 to 3.3 down to 1.5, we hope. Preventing the worst of the worst futures and adapting to what is coming no matter what. And the adapting to what's coming no matter what is this next 10 or 15 years when things are just the same. This is generational work where we do not get to experience many of the positive outcomes. There are some things that improve really fast. Let's come back here. I want to just point out how amazing it is to see a world. I'm going back here to air quality. Look how fast these air quality improves. That's great. Look how fast that line comes down. It immediately gets better. We're saving lives. But going back over here to temperature, and therefore those impacts, such as deaths from extreme heat, it shows the same thing. It's not until 2040 or so that we get a much better future. So this is a real challenge for us. How do we persist in the face of this fact? Well, I think, and this is my number one reason, and I was inspired by a section of this book, and it was an editorial. If you can share the book and the editorial, I got to write with my friend Auden Schendler. This is the book, Terrible Beauty. I encourage you to read it. And I've got this section of it here that was actually pulled from an editorial that we wrote together, but he wrote these paragraphs in the editorial. Here's what he said. We need to treat the climate slog. This is the fact that we must be fully engaged in it every day, even though things will only get worse in this next 10 or 15 years. More like making coffee in the morning than deploying for war. We need to think of it as a joyful habit, the right way to live, something we just want to do, a practice like exercise, like good hygiene, like spending time with people whom we love. Can we embrace it as just a good way to live to help make this future happen? He said such an approach would require dropping the American focus of destination over journey, release the concept of winning and winners, abandoning a goal orientation at least in the short term. This does not mean giving up or slackening our pace. I love this quote by I.F. Stone. Look at this quote. The only kinds of fights worth fighting are those that you're going to lose because somebody has to fight them. Excuse me. The only kinds of fights worth fighting are those you're going to lose because somebody has to fight them and lose and lose and lose until someday somebody who believes as you do wins. In order for somebody to win an important major fight like sustainability 100 years hence, a lot of other people have to be willing for the sheer fun and joy of it to go right ahead and fight knowing you're going to lose. You mustn't feel like a martyr. You've got to enjoy it. Camus said it another way. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Can we apply ourselves to this hard work because we know it's the right thing to do? Now, I know enough of the people who are on this webinar now. I saw Eduardo Fracassi. I think of my colleague, Ellie Johnston on our team, who I just see every day showing up. She's been doing this. She was like 9 years old. Every day showing up, doing all we can. Our whole team here at Climate Interactive, we just show up. And I know many of you in the same way, every day in some way, however we can. So this, I think, is the number one reason we persist because it is the right way to live. It is the right thing to do when we are the world and the earth speaking for itself and protecting itself, knowing that we're going to do everything we can to get us on the right track. It is our practice. So, why do we do this? It's just the right way to live. Hope is healthy. We see a study where people are healthier because they choose to persist. We are part of a community that is so beautiful and powerful. You know your community. We're inviting you to ours. Small groups of thoughtful, committed citizens changing the world. There's some possibility we're seeing addressing fossil fuels, the main cause of climate change. There is a beautiful multi-solving happening between renewables efficiency, clean energy, and energy affordability. The two of them work together. That helps us. We know what is needed. We have the technology and the policy that's required to get there. It's about deployment. Other new partners are joining us from insurance, from law, from financial regulation. Holy cow! Clean energy revolution, batteries, wind, solar, storage, China, off the freaking charts. It's been working. Over this last 30 years, we have done so much to avoid the worst case scenarios. It is working. And guess what? We know we can't adapt. We must address it. So my question to you, my friends, and I appreciate your patience going past the hour for a minute or two. Open up your poll. Which of these reasons to persist meant the most to you? Vote 4 times if you want. Which reason to persist speaks to you? The movement has been working. It's just the right way to live. This is part of my practice. I do it because I do it. I do it because I do it. I do it because I do it. Why? Why do I greet people that I care about? Why do I brush my teeth? Why do I get some exercise? Why do I spend time in nature? It's what I do. I work to prevent climate change and invest in a sustainable future. Even if I don't get to see all the payoffs, it's a good way to live. You're voting for J. The movement has been working. 18% of you going there. H, never doubt a small group of committed citizens. Clean energy has surpassed expectations. Which reason to persist meant the most to you? Wonderful. So great to see it. So, given all of that, what is your practice? What is your practice? What are this is what I do. This is how I live my life. And of course, I'm going to do this. I don't need a big reason. I don't need to be optimistic that this is contributing. I am doing this because it's the right way to be in the world. What are you doing? What are you doing? Citizen climate lobby advocacy. Fantastic. Sustainable living. Carbon footprint living. Fantastic. Gradually decarbonizing, perhaps in your life. Take time for breaks in nature. Being vegetarian, eating less meat. Minimizing footprints. No meat, another vegetarian. Citizen climate lobby. You teach climate change. Wonderful. Lobby policymakers. Getting to know myself and improve as a human being. Wonderful. Wonderful. By the way, we're going to end in a few and then we're going to take your questions after this. Boosting insects in nature, education, recycling. I take every opportunity to talk to others about climate change. I teach my students about it. I'm a member of Citizen Climate Lobby. Electrification, science for the future, no car, think of emissions, just talk about climate. Another Citizen Climate Lobby advocate. Live your values, teaching young people how to be an activist for the climate. Check every step in action that I do and evaluate its impact on climate. Present climate literacy for library adult patrons, Citizen Climate Lobby. Be the friend who can be asked anything about climate, connected with others in the community, decrease plastics, legislative advocacy, talk to people at public events and En-ROADS, fantastic. People, planet, prosperity, and sustainability. Peter, voting to support the climate, becoming an ambassador, promote electric vehicles, solar, carbon pricing, educating people using the simulator, being part of nature, eco-sustainability peep forum, re-engaging with En-ROADS workshops, drive climate literacy on a broad scale. Guest presenter 4 times a year at Wright State University, 4 times. There's no university. I do that 4 times. That's great. In a bank on sustainability, green education, compost school lunch, electrified. Wow, this is fantastic. Okay, I'm going back here. All right, my friends, you've been patient. It is 5 minutes past. Here are these 10 reasons that we came up with. What a journey that we've taken you on today. I encourage you to find the reasons to persist because we all need it. when we offer a tool to address that heartbreaking number that less than 18% of top decision makers know how climate actions will play out and bring us benefits. We have some tools that will help you engage them that are proven to actually help. So join this work, take this course that we have. It's free and online, Mastering En-ROADS. Send us pictures. The pictures make us smile. We're in a generational work of helping this society that we're part of look forward to see where things are headed and avert our direction. We have some science-based ways to engage that will really help. Doing it, my friends, is not going to be easy. Doing it is going to be worth it. Go get them, everybody.